The combat assessment arena of the Galactic Military Academy smelled like ozone and old blood. It was a circular chamber 300 meters across, built from Duranite 7 alloy, the same material used in the hull plating of Dreadnought-class warships. The walls had absorbed plasma bursts, graviton pulses, psionic shock waves, and the concussive force of 17 different species combat forms over 400 years of student assessments. They had never cracked. Not once. Not until Emma. But that comes later. First, there was the morning of the assessment. First, there was the laughter. Cohort 12 assembled at 0600 standard, 43 cadets arranged in tiered observation seats above the arena floor. Instructor Sam stood at the podium, a Kellari veteran, grayscaled, one eye replaced with a tactical implant that glowed faint blue in the dim light. Sam had run combat assessments for 19 years. Sam had seen cadets crumble, cadets exceed expectations, cadets surprise even themselves. Sam had never seen a human before this cohort. Emma stood at the edge of the assessment queue, datapad tucked under one arm, her dark hair pulled back from her face. She was unremarkable to look at by the standards of the academy. Medium height. Soft-looking compared to the cadets around her. No bioluminescent threat displays. No reinforced exoskeleton. No psychic resonance field that made the air taste like copper when she was angry. She was just a human. The assessment system had flagged her file 3 times already with the same automated note. Baseline biology. NO recorded enhancements. Classification unaugmented. Which meant, in the language of the academy, that she had nothing. Vex, a Taurati cadet, broad-shouldered, 3 meters tall, his combat form already in partial activation so that his secondary musculature rippled visibly under his skin, had read her file. Human, he said, not quietly. The tiered seats carried sound well. You're in the combat assessment queue. Emma looked up. I noticed. This is not a participation exercise, Vex said. The assessment registers actual power outputs. Kinetic force. Energy discharge. Psionic amplitude. He tilted his massive head. What exactly are you planning to register? A ripple of laughter moved through the tiered seats. Not all of them. Nyx, a quiet Arathari cadet in the second tier, pressed her feeding palps together and looked away, but most of them. Enough. Emma said nothing. I've reviewed your species data, said Ro, a Sethian cadet whose flat obsidian body caught the arena lights. Average human generates approximately 400 newtons of force at peak physical output. My resting field pressure is 6,000. Another ripple of laughter. You will register as background noise. Emma looked at the arena floor. Then she looked at the walls. Then she did something nobody in Cohort 12 had seen before. She smiled, not defensively, not with embarrassment, but with the patient, private expression of someone who has been waiting a very long time for exactly this moment. Great, she said. I'll go last. The assessments ran through the morning. Vex registered 47,000 newtons of peak kinetic output. The impact sensors in the arena floor glowed red for 6 seconds after his demonstration strike. The cohort applauded. Ro's field pressure assessment bent the air visibly, creating a shimmering distortion that set off the arena's passive containment sensors before instructor Sam manually overrode them. Kel, the Prothean cadet, discharged 3 simultaneous plasma arcs that left scorch patterns on the arena floor that would take a maintenance team 2 days to clean. Driss, a second-generation hybrid whose psionic output had broken records in the preliminary intake assessments, made the walls hum. They hummed for almost 4 seconds. The cohort was impressed. Emma watched from the queue. She had her datapad open. She appeared to be taking notes. What are you writing? Nyx asked quietly from the seat beside her. Observations, Emma said. About the other cadets? About the walls. Nyx looked at the arena walls. They looked the same as they always did, smooth, impenetrable, ancient. What about them? Emma tapped something on her datapad. Duranite 7 alloy. Crystalline lattice structure, tensile strength rated for sustained graviton impacts up to 200 kilojoules. Very impressive. She paused. Designed to absorb distributed force across a wide surface area. Nyx waited. Not designed, Emma continued, for point-concentrated oscillating resonance at the lattice's natural harmonic frequency. Nyx stared at her. How do you know the lattice's natural harmonic frequency? I've been listening to it all morning, Emma said. Every time someone hits it, it rings. Barely. Subsonic. But I've been recording. She tilted the datapad so Nix could see. A waveform display, 4 hours of captured audio data, a frequency analysis. Duranite 7 resonates at 17.4 Hz under standard atmospheric pressure. That's infrasound. Below the threshold of most species perception. She glanced sideways at Nix. Humans can't hear it either, technically. But we built instruments that could, about 600 years ago. For different reasons. We've been working with resonance frequencies for a long time. Nix looked at the datapad, then at the walls, then at Emma. What are you planning to do? Emma closed the datapad. At the front of the room, Instructor Sam called her name. Register, she said. She walked onto the arena floor alone. The laughter had faded into something more like curiosity, edged with condescension. 42 cadets watched from the tiered seats. Instructor Sam stood at the assessment podium, tactical implant glowing, one hand resting on the manual override panel out of what was clearly professional habit rather than genuine concern. Emma stood in the center of the arena. She had no weapon. She had no visible equipment. She had taken off her datapad and left it at the Q station. Cadet Emma, Sam said, you may begin your assessment when ready. Emma closed her eyes. She breathed in once. Slowly, someone in the tiered seats whispered something. Someone else stifled a laugh. Then Emma began to hum. It was not a dramatic sound. That was the first thing the cohort noticed, or rather, didn't notice, because at first it seemed like nothing was happening at all. A human, standing in the center of an arena, making a small sound with her throat. Vex was already composing something sarcastic to say. But then the floor sensors flickered. Not with kinetic force. Not with energy output. With something the sensors had never measured before in 400 years of assessments. A vibration reading, coming not from an impact, but from the air itself. From a sustained, precise, perfectly calibrated acoustic emission being directed, focused, shaped by a human throat and chest cavity acting as instruments. Emma had spent 4 months at the academy. She had spent those 4 months listening. She had measured the arena walls while other cadets slept, running harmonic analysis on her datapad, cross-referencing the crystalline lattice structure of Duranite 7 with 6 centuries of human acoustic engineering research that had started, improbably, with human musicians trying to shatter wine glasses with their voices. Research that had grown into sonar technology, into non-destructive material testing, into surgical ultrasound, into weapons that her species had mostly chosen not to deploy because they were too indiscriminate. Emma was being very, very discriminate. She had chosen 3 specific points on the arena wall. The geometric intersections where stress fractures would propagate most efficiently through the lattice. She had spent 3 weeks running the calculations. She had checked them 11 times. The frequency she was generating was not 17.4 Hz. It was 17.4 Hz plus the cumulative resonance overtones she had spent all morning cataloging from the other cadets' demonstrations. All of it layered, precisely, into a coherent wave pattern that she was now directing at the wall with her entire body. The wall began to hum back. Nix heard it first. Her species' hearing range extended into subsonic frequencies. She stood up from her seat. Then the assessment sensors began screaming. The readings were not measuring force output or energy discharge or psionic amplitude. They were measuring structural integrity of the walls, which were. The first crack appeared at the eastern intersection point. A fine line, hairline thin, running diagonally through Duranite 7 alloy that had absorbed Dreadnought-class plasma impacts without marking. The second crack appeared 4 seconds later. The third didn't so much appear as arrive, propagating from the first 2 simultaneously, and then with a sound like the universe clearing its throat. The wall shattered. Not explosively. Not violently. With a sound like a cathedral bell struck once. Perfectly, the eastern arc of the arena wall simply came apart at its stress points, sections of ancient Duranite 7 sliding apart and falling in massive, geometric pieces, exposing the corridor beyond to open air. Emma stopped humming. The arena was completely silent. She opened her eyes, turned to the assessment podium, and looked at Instructor Sam. Sam's tactical implant was running calculations. Sam's other eye was very wide. On the podium screen, the structural integrity readings were still cascading downward, the sensors still processing what had just happened, and in the output field where power ratings were recorded. The system had crashed. It didn't have a classification for this. Humans, Emma said, into the silence, have been breaking things with sound for 600 years. She paused. We just usually use it for medicine. Sam filed the incident report that evening. It took 4 hours to write, because the standard assessment forms didn't have fields for acoustic structural deconstruction or resonance-based lattice failure, or cadet demonstrated mastery of a weapons application her species officially considers non-combat technology. Sam added a personal note at the end. Recommend immediate curriculum revision. We have been assessing human cadets on the wrong metrics. They do not win by being stronger. They win by understanding systems better than the systems understand themselves. Cadet Emma did not attack the wall. She listened to it until she understood exactly how it wanted to fall, and then she asked it to. The wall said yes. I have never seen that before. I suspect we will see it again. In the tiered seats, Vex sat very still for a long time. Eventually, quietly, he said, she was taking notes. Nix, beside him, nodded. The whole morning, Vex said, while we were demonstrating. She was taking notes on the walls. Yes, said Nix. A long silence. I don't know whether to be impressed or terrified, Vex admitted. Nix watched Emma walk calmly off the arena floor, datapad tucked back under her arm, the cracked and open wall behind her framing the corridor light like a door she had decided to make. In my experience, Nix said, with humans, those are usually the same thing. 300 meters of Duranite 7 alloy. 400 years of Academy history. 17 species worth of combat power. One human. One morning. She didn't bring a weapon. She brought a notebook.